Adrian wasn't supposed to be standing there that long. He was walking to the living room to get his phone. It was just a passing moment. A voice through a half-closed door. Something he could have ignored. But the way Marielle said it, that was what made him stop. Light, casual, almost amused. Not the way she spoke to him. Not the way she ever sounded when she said she loved him. And in that moment, without moving, without thinking, Adrian listened. He didn't realize it then. But that sentence was going to end his marriage. Hi, this is Breakup Diaries. And this story is about what happens when love feels real, until you hear the truth behind it. Because before that night, Adrian believed in something simple. That love, if it was real, didn't need to be questioned. He wasn't naive. He had seen enough to know people weren't always honest. Especially when money was involved. Adrian had been careful before. Kept his distance. Watched for signs. But when he met Marielle, none of those signs were there. She didn't ask about what he had. Didn't seem impressed by it. If anything, she avoided it. Focused on him instead. The way he spoke. The way he thought. The small things most people overlooked. That was what made him trust her. What made him believe this was different. And for a while, it felt like it was. They built something that seemed balanced. Natural. Unaffected by the things that usually complicated relationships like his. So when Adrian chose her, when he decided to build a life with Marielle, it didn't feel like a risk. It felt like certainty. But standing there that night, Adrian realized something he hadn't allowed himself to consider before. Maybe he hadn't been seen at all. After that night, nothing changed. At least, not on the surface. Marielle still spoke to Adrian the same way. Soft, attentive, certain. If anything, she seemed more present. More invested. And that was what made it harder to process. Because if what Adrian heard was real, then this version of Marielle had to be real too. And the two didn't match. He didn't confront her. Not immediately. Instead, Adrian started watching. Not suspiciously. Just carefully. At first, everything looked normal. They shared meals. Talked about the future. Laughed the same way they always had. But then the small things started to stand out. The way Marielle spoke about money. More often now. More specifically. Not curious, deliberate. She asked about accounts. Structures. Access. And when Adrian answered, she listened differently. Focused, calculated. Adrian told himself it was normal. That this was part of building a life together. But something stayed with him. A quiet thought he couldn't ignore anymore. Looking back, the signs weren't hidden. He just didn't know he was supposed to look for them. And once that thought settled in, everything started to feel slightly different. Not wrong. Just clearer. Once the doubt settled in, it stayed. Quiet, persistent. Changing how Adrian saw everything. Marielle didn't seem different. But Adrian did. He noticed how she guided conversations. Subtly. Back to stability. To long-term planning. to financial decisions. She framed it as responsibility, as partnership. And before, Adrian would have agreed without thinking. But now, he listened differently. He noticed what wasn't there. Marielle never questioned anything between them. Never showed uncertainty. Never seemed emotionally unsettled. And that should have felt reassuring. But instead, it felt controlled. Like she was always one step ahead. There were moments her tone shifted. Small, almost invisible changes. But Adrian recognized them now. Because he had heard the other version of her. And once you hear that version, you start finding it everywhere. In pauses. In expressions. In the way someone reacts when they don't expect to be observed. And the more Adrian paid attention, the clearer it became. This wasn't new. It was something he had missed. Something that had been there all along. And realizing that was harder than anything else. Because it meant the truth wasn't sudden. It had always been there. Waiting for him to see it. Adrian went back to that moment again. The voice through the door. Marielle's voice. Not the one she gave him. The one she thought no one else would hear. She trusts me completely, Marielle said softly. There was a pause. Then a quiet laugh. I didn't even have to try that hard. Adrian felt something shift. Not loudly, but deeply. Then she said it. The part that stayed with him. Adrian's exactly where I need him to be. No hesitation. No guilt. Just certainty. Like she wasn't describing a relationship, but a position. Something placed. Something controlled. And that was the moment everything changed. Because it wasn't anger he felt first. It was understanding. A slow realization settling in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't taken out of context. It was clarity. The kind you don't recover from. Because once you hear something like that, you don't question what it means. You question everything that led to it. And for Adrian, that was worse. Because it meant every moment he trusted, every decision he made, might not have been shared the same way. And standing there, Adrian realized something he couldn't ignore anymore. This wasn't love the way he understood it. This was something else. Something calculated. Something intentional. And now that he saw it, he couldn't unsee it. Adrian didn't confront Marielle. That was the first decision he made. Not because he doubted what he heard, but because reacting emotionally wouldn't change anything. Instead, he adjusted. Quietly, carefully. He stopped assuming. Stopped filling gaps with trust. And started observing with intention. Marielle didn't change. And that confirmed everything. She still guided conversations. Still positioned decisions. Still made everything sound reasonable. But now Adrian could see the structure behind it. The direction. The control. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was consistent. And consistency reveals truth. So Adrian created distance. Not physically, but emotionally. He separated what he felt from what he knew. And in that space, he made a decision. He wouldn't confront her with anger. He wouldn't react the way she might expect. He would move with clarity. Because whatever Marielle had built was intentional. And if it was intentional, then he needed to respond the same way. Not impulsively, but strategically. And for the first time since that night, Adrian felt something shift inside him. Not relief. Not peace. But control. When Adrian finally spoke, there was no anger in his voice. No confrontation. No need to prove anything. He wasn't asking questions anymore. He already had answers. He simply said what he understood. Clear, direct, final. Marielle didn't react the way he once imagined. No shock. No real denial. Just a pause. A shift. Like she was adjusting. Recalculating. And in that moment, Adrian understood something clearly. He hadn't exposed her. He had interrupted her. And that difference mattered. Because it meant this wasn't something she feared being discovered. It was something she believed she could manage. Until she couldn't. The conversation didn't last long. It didn't need to. Some truths don't require explanation. Adrian wasn't looking for closure anymore. He already had it. What he believed in, what he thought they shared, was never mutual. Walking away didn't feel like winning. It didn't feel like losing either. It felt like clarity. Like stepping out of something that had been real to him, but never real to Marielle. And that was what stayed with him. Not what she did, but how easily she did it. Like it had never been about him at all.